Hello, I'm Glorious Liar, and this is another installation of my glitch explanation series. Today I will be exploring some of the exploits in Kirby Canvas Curse, a 2005 puzzle platformer for the Nintendo DS. In speedrunning, some of the most sought-out skips are typically those involving autoscrollers, sections of gameplay that by nature of the game cannot be sped up in a meaningful way. Put another way, the pacing is determined for you. Today I'll be showing how we can skip many sections of the game that follow that definition. Let's get into it. First I need to talk about game mechanics. There are 21 levels plus an additional boss stage for the endgame. In normal gameplay, Kirby rolls around prone to damage sources, enemies, collision, and more. You must navigate through the game using ink drawn from the stylus. Kirby attaches to drawn lines, which guide your movement and propel you forward. Drawing on consecutive frames forms lines, which themselves are composed of discrete line segments of various lengths. A line must consist of at least 2 segments in order to persist. Understanding line composition and line attachment will be important to understanding Canvas Curse's biggest exploit. In a tool-assisted setting, or in limited RTA capacities, a game-breaking exploit is at your fingertips anywhere you can draw lines that Kirby can attach to. The exploit is called position correction. On its own it's relatively innocuous, but under the right circumstances it's game-changing. When Kirby interacts with a new line when already attached to one, and the lines end and originate at pixel-perfect relative positions, a correction mechanism is triggered to resolve an ambiguous attachment state. It's unclear which line should take preference, so as a failsafe, Kirby is instantly warped back to the origin of the terminal line segment, which can be of variable length. In a tool-assisted setting, the terminal line segment's length can be controlled with complete precision, ranging from about 4 to 47 units in length. Now, lines fizzle out whenever a new one is drawn or after a set time, so if position correction is triggered after the origin of the terminal line segment has fizzled out, Kirby is untethered. Due to being untethered and moving up to 47 units in a singular frame, this rapid change in position is interpreted as speed and Kirby will fling backwards at a speed determined by the displacement. For context, Kirby normally moves at around 4 to 4.5 units while riding a drawn line. Having this much speed is great for open-air movement, but even more powerful is the ability to interact with collision. Collision detection absolutely fails at these speeds, and you can clip into walls and objects before you're even detected as close to them. You can either pass right through obstacles or lodge yourself inside them, which kills your horizontal speed. This is called velocity clipping. Using this same technique, you can position correct yourself directly into a wall if the origin of the terminal line segment is inside it. This is much more precise but has its advantages if you don't have room to get airspeed, or are underwater where physics are different. This is called position correction clipping. Now to explain out-of-bounds mechanics. Being inside objects or walls, the normal laws of physics do not apply. You can only exist in certain notches, which are about 30 units apart and are what I suspect to be the distance between tiles. Every single frame inside an object or wall, the game attempts to correct your position to above the current tile, resulting in absurd vertical speed as you jump from notch to notch off camera, typically up to your death or the occasional safe area. You can stay in place by tethering to a line, and will slide slowly in the direction of a positive slope. Your only hope for downward movement is by facing a camera-locked wall, and being touched by a line segment below you. Doing this for some reason sucks you downward, allowing you to descend to new areas while out of bounds. Here's the visualization of the route you can take at the end of the sub-area in Tiny Town. Being untethered can be scary, but occasionally useful if you line it up correctly. Being off-screen means you completely lose control of Kirby. In Ghost Grounds, if you set up the untethering precisely, you can get ejected upward while continuing to roll towards the wall, bonk, and turn around, and fall back in bounds at the highest area where the portal resides. This is incredibly quick compared to inbounds movement. Here's a visualization of the movement in Ghost Grounds. Now to the autoscroller exploits. There are many things I would consider autoscrollers in the game. While a true autoscroller is when the camera moves for you, there are many sections where the obstacles are laid out such that you can't speed it up meaningfully, or you can encounter no ink zones where drawing does nothing. The first example I have in mind is in Collapse Castle. Normally there is a cannon path that can't be sped up much because it's covered in a no ink zone. You spawn in an area just before the no ink zone, and fortunately there's a small corner of collision that can be clipped into. By launching into this corner, Kirby pops up to an out-of-bounds area where movement is free again. From here we can launch to the top of the final section, lodging into the wall and popping out long enough to launch to a wall directly below the exit, and let out of bounds mechanics carry us to the end. Here's a visualization of the task route. We skip the entire no ink section plus some additional meandering corridors. All told, this probably saves 20 to 30 seconds. The next example is not a true autoscroller, but forces you to attach to a long series of platforms in no ink zones where the platform speed is slow and unchanging. This is the second sub-area of Frozen Fantasy. Using two powerful launches we can coast straight through both ink zones, stopping to change launch directions and using the ceiling in a clever way to reflect our momentum. Here's a visualization of the task route across this long horizontal room. All told, this probably saves around 50 seconds to a minute. Lastly, we have a true autoscroller. This is the only true autoscroller skip known in the game. The reason this one is solved while others aren't is the fact that the end portal exists below the beginning of the spawn area, because the camera normally scrolls horizontally right, then all the way back left. By getting out of bounds at the beginning and using the technique to descend while out of bounds, we can get to the appropriate height and head straight to the exit. Here's a visualization of the task route to the exit. All in all, this likely saves a minute and a half over real-time speedruns. As a bonus, I'd like to show off a quirk of getting out of bounds here. Below the starting area is an odd trigger that causes the camera scrolling to accelerate, which means if you get back in bounds, you're in for quite the ride. And in a spectacular end, Kirby gets crushed to death. I hope you enjoyed this Canvas Curse explanation video. I found basically everything explained within this video, from position correction to the applications of it for a tool-assisted run. Everything was found during the production of the task, forcing me to start over multiple times. Most levels in the game have some sort of sequence break, so I'll likely make some more videos explaining things as they apply to going fast in a tool-assisted setting. Thanks for watching.